Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the shop. Today we're diving back into the Camaro, so stay tuned. Alright, well, I'm excited and I'm upset. So if you saw the last episode, we got this thing running. It will crank right now and everything else, but I have an issue with an oil leak. And I'm having a thought it's the rear main seal. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pull this thing out, check to see what's going on, and then we're going to get it back in. We have about 4 days of getting this thing to where it's running, driving, replace the front tires because this one has a bubble in it and the other one's getting there, and get it registered. So within that 4 days, 1.5 of those days are going to be spent pulling this engine, putting it back in. That's what today starts out to be. And so we're going to go on a time lapse because I've already pulled this engine once with y'all, seeing kind of what I do, or what you have to do if you have the same issue or engine and car. Anyway, but engine still looks beautiful. So my plan is to, what is that? A little bit away. All right, my plan is to take valve covers off so I don't mess them up, carb off so I don't scratch it up, leave the distributor, leave everything else on, take the power steering off. Not sure about the alternator, I might just leave it on. Take the radiator out, and the fan shroud, and we're going to pull this motor forward and straight up, and then we're going to get the car, or get it in front of the car. We're going to pull the flex plate off and check behind there to see where the leak is coming from. So it also looks like I have a little leak on the water pump, which I might have to throw some RTV in there. I'm not sure, hoping I don't, but it looks like I do. So I might have to be pulling that water pump too. So if I had to pull the water pump, well, some more stuff comes off, but I'd rather pull it now and get rid of all these leaks and everything else before I get it on the road and drive it around for hours on end so it doesn't overheat or anything like that. So yeah, we're going to get to this, and it's going to take me a little while. So stand by for a time lapse. Ooh, you're dirty. Well, I just wanted y'all to hear it, and again, because it has started. All right, ready? There it is. The tachometer's still messing up. There she is. Sounds really good. But we do have an oil leak, and I'll show you where that is. So I'm not going to let this thing get hot because I got to pull it. I got an exhaust leak. It sounds, or smells like too. Oh, this thing stinks when it runs. All right, let's get down here. All right, so coming down here, you see that? That is oil, and that's coming from, oh, I can't move y'all, up there, between here somewhere. So I'm going to take a look real quick while I got it in the air and see what I can find, because on top of that, I think I got exhaust leaks and I think I got a water leak. So, let me check into this. Alright, so I grabbed a different camera stand so y'all can get up under here with me. So what I'm seeing is, well, if y'all can see me, what I'm seeing is I think it's the oil pan. So if that's the case, that would be wonderful, so I don't have to pull this thing. Still have to pull the water pump off. I'm going to tighten the oil pan down in the back a little bit more and see if that can make it stop, hopefully. If it doesn't, then I'll have to pull the pan off and re-silicone it. So let's get up in here. Alright, so the purity of science with this thing and tightening stuff down. My two front bolts up here for the water pump weren't all the way tight. Go figure. So I'm going to crank this thing up, let it run for a minute, and see if I get any more drippage. down below. Up top, it should have stopped it, hopefully, because it was kind of loose, like almost not even on there. The silicone's on there, the gasket maker. But, so let's crank this thing back up, let it run for a little bit, and see if I still have an oil leak. All right, so, yeah. I think it's the pan leaking, but I don't know, and I've tightened it down as much as I can. I can't tighten it down anymore. It stopped it for a little bit. I left it running for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes to warm up, and it started leaking again. So, oh, and I need a new cap because my cap started making it overflow and leak. So I guess I got to pull it because if it is the pan, I'm gonna have to scrape it clean and put it back on there anyway, which is the whole thing has to come off and the whole gasket. It's not easy putting it back in that car. Done it in my 240. Mistake. Don't ever do that. It's the worst ever. Just trying to avoid to pull something out. So yeah, I gotta drain the fluids, pull the engine. Once I pull the engine, we're gonna pull the pan, look at the pan, we'll clean up the pan, and then look at that rear main seal. The rear main seal is what I'm concerned about more than the pan, because it's a little bit more work, but it's already gonna be out, so it's not really a difference, because the fact of you have to basically pull the engine, the pan, and then after all that you still have to pull the rear main cap. So I'm going to do all of it. I'm going to replace the rear main seal just for security, and then once I do that, I'm going to slap everything back together and cross my fingers and hope I have no more leaks. So like I said, we're going to go into fast-paced mode, and we're going to knock this whole thing out. So I've got it on the ramps right now. I'm going to drain some fluids, and then I'm going to unbuckle the transmission. And once I unbuckle the transmission, then everything should just fall into place. I'm going to have the fan on because it's hot, especially since I've just been running it, and it's going to be loud, and I want some music. So yeah, some entertainment for y'all to watch me pull a motor. Alright, so we're almost done. Got the radiator out, power steering. Transmission has 3 bolts in it. Engine mounts are still in. And that's it. I just gotta pop off the valve covers, and the whole engine comes out. So I'm pretty happy. Didn't take that long. Took about hour and a half at most, and that's me fiddle farting around. So yeah, already pulled it off the blocks, so like I said, it is ready. I'm going to get the engine stand, or the engine hoist, and the valve covers off and just plop it right out. So that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so it's time to grab the engine hoist over there, drag it over here, and undo these few extra bolts that we got, the wiring in the back that we got, the starter wire, and yank this thing out. That's what we're going to do now. We're going to get all the handles. Let's do it. All right, now we got the 2 motor mounts and the 3 bolts on the back of the transmission. Let's do that. All right, so learning. Headers, they're long tubes, so yeah, they don't fit. So I'm going to bring this back down a little bit, which is already kind of loose, but I'm going to undo the headers. So once I undo the headers, I hate doing it because then I got to put them back on, and they're a pain in the butt to put back on, and I got to apply a gasket maker to them. I was hoping to pull the whole thing out without having to deal with that, but I don't have enough clearance forward to do that, and I'm hitting the transmission down there and the body with the headers. So just gonna zip these off real quick. All right, so as you see, it's dark outside. Can you see through that door? It's out. I'm sad. So, but we still need to get some paint for the alternator anyway. But well, it did good coming out. It didn't bust up anything, didn't break anything, didn't hit the distributor, which I need to push this pin back down. But a problem lies behind here, and we're not going to get to that tonight. We're going to get to that first thing tomorrow. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift this thing back up, drain the oil. Once we drain the oil, we're going to pop this flex plate off and take a look at that rear main seal and that oil pan. I hate that I had to take the headers off, but it wasn't fitting coming out. I also learned that to put my third spark plug on, third on driver's side, which would make what, 5? To make number 5 come out or go in, I need to go ahead and put it in before or while I'm doing the headers. If I can do that, which I didn't do before, it would make more sense. Got a little power steering leakage. Push that back. Just until tomorrow. Alright, whatever. So, yeah. Let's hope it's the oil pan, but if it is, if it isn't, doesn't matter. It's all out now, and I've got to throw it all together, and I got a couple days to do this, and yeah, now I got to clean these all up and put new gasket material on it. I could just go ahead and just put the other gaskets on there, which I may do. I don't know. I might. It might work. It worked for years. It might work now. I really like the copper gasket maker because it makes it to where it seals 100% and it has flex. Those other gaskets don't have flex. They'll seal it, but if there's any gap, it could blow the gasket out. But yep, here we are again. Here we are again. So, fingers crossed that I can get all this put back together real quick, because right after that I got to pull the tires off, change the front tires, and then I got to look at this hinge on the passenger and driver side, because I got a kit for that, so I need to do that. So I will see y'all in the morning. It's a new day. It's getting late in the afternoon. So we're going to pop this off. We're going to look and see where the possible oil leak is. I do have a new rear main seal just in case, and I do have a oil pan gasket. So I'm going to pop this off. We're going to drain the oil, and once we drain the oil, we're going to save it because it's brand spanking new. Yeah, it's breaking oil, but it hasn't really broke in yet completely. So we're going to save that. We're going to reuse that. We'll change it after this event, and take this pan off, clean everything up, get it ready to have a new gasket on it, and as well as possibly redoing that rear main. So let's pop this off. And all right, let's get in here and look. Oh, what do I see? I see that it's looking like it's the rear main seal. It's all wet right above it, and it's all wet below it. All right, well, let's drain some oil, and yeah, drain some oil. All right, fluid's drained. Now we are going to pop in and pull this pan off. So that's the main thing we're going to be doing. So let's pull this pan and we'll go from there. Okay, so looking down here, I can't really tell. I was looking at it earlier, but I can't really tell if the main cap or the rear main seal is leaking, or if it was the pan gasket. So I'm just going to replace both and cross my fingers, hope that fixes it. So I'm going to do this with the crank and the block still, and just loosen it up a little bit, and then I'm going to torque it back down like I need to. I'm probably going to take the oil pump off as well if I have to. Shouldn't have to. It should come off with the main cap, but I'm not sure. So yeah. But anyway, I got to start cleaning everything up, clean the oil pan up, get it ready to go, clean this main cap up, put it back, and get everything ready. So let's do this. Alright, so we got the main cap off. Now we're going to have to pop this rear main off. That's what we're going to do now. I got to kind of finagle it because it's at a little cockeyed way it needs to be. So doing that makes it to where it shouldn't leak. But apparently it did leak. So we're going to get this out and we're going to redo it. Alright, so we got both pieces out. I don't know where my other piece went. Kind of dropped it on the whim of just pulling this one out. So yeah, it looks like it was facing the right way, which is that flap towards the front. So but we're going to replace this. You see it's got some gasket maker on it. So I'm going to shove this back in there and redo the whole thing. So I'm going to spray some brake cleaner in here real quick, clean it, make sure there's a good seal, and then we're going to push this through and make sure it's dry with a little bit of oil around the edge here so it doesn't burn it up whenever it starts spinning. So let's get back to this. So this is my new rear main seal kit from Felpro, BS40013. It's a two-piece set. It comes with a oil pump retainer for the shaft. So that's nice. I didn't know it came with it. So I guess that's why it's like an extra $5 to $10 for this. Because the other one, I don't know if it has it or not, because there's two Felpro ones. I don't know. So let's get this one in. Alright, so we got our new one lubed up. We have the big fin facing forward, fat lip facing back. So that's the way we're going to do this. We're going to slip this in and around the crank, leaving about 3/8 of an inch between one of the sides and the block, so that it's kind of offset from the actual flat piece to the block, so it doesn't create another leak. But we're going to put some Permatex on here as well once we shove all this together. So any flat surfaces, always put some gasket maker on it somehow, somewhere, to make sure that this stuff doesn't leak. So I don't want to come back and do this again. So let me get this in. Alright, so if you see up here, y'all can, I don't know if y'all can, see up here, the blue's already through 3/8 about through it. So now what we're going to do is we are going to throw some Permatex on this side and the other side, and put this other gasket in. So we're going to put it on the rear main cap, and with doing that it should seal it all up. We're also going to put a little bit of Permatex on the flat surfaces where the rear main seal touches the outer block, so we don't have any leaks right there either. So let me get to that. Alright, so I'm going to take my time on snugging this up because I want the Permatex to kind of sit a little bit and get tacky and start to form, because once you let that happen and then you finally torque it down, it'll create a better bond than if you just squeeze it all together and it all squishes out the side. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait a minute and then we're going to tighten this up. So we're going to follow the original specs. I think it's 65 foot-pounds. 3 stages to get there, and the final is 65. Once we do that, we'll clean up the oil pan. We'll get the gasket ready for it. We'll put plenty of Permatex on the seals for it, and then slap this oil pan back in, do the same thing, wait a minute before we tighten it all down, and then once we do that, we'll get this thing back in the car and start it and cross our fingers, hoping that we don't have any leaks. Alright, so it's been a few minutes. We're going to start cranking it down to 30, 45, and then 65. So that's what we're going to do. Alright, so that's torqued down. Now we're going to focus on the oil pan, get this thing together, slap this thing back in, and go vroom vroom. Alright, got me another Felpro gasket kit for the oil pan. So this is a OS30410C. So it's a 4-piece, comes with the front and the rear seals. So that's what we're gonna do. Alright, so with this kit comes a front, or that's a rear, a front and a rear. Alright, the rear actually has these little buttons in the cork where that fits in like that. So that's how that presses in together. If you do it on top or on the bottom, it won't press right. You have to do it like that. And I'd definitely say put some gasket maker between these two. So the front does not have that, it's just flat. On here, these are just flat, so they can go below that as well. Alright, so what we got to do is we got to put the cork gasket in first. So we're going to take a bead of gasket maker and put it all the way across both top, well, yeah, the top that goes to the block, and then we'll put another bead on the oil pan when it presses up against it, so they'll be sealed pretty good and it'll be glued together instead of it having anywhere where it could have possibly leak. I'm going to kind of go overkill right now because I just don't want to pull this thing back out. So we're going to slap these two in and get them where they need to go. And then we're going to use the big gasket up front, little gasket in the rear. The little gasket has to line up with the cork gasket. This one just sits on top of it, so this one's going to get a lot more RTV. So let's do it. Alright, even though we're doing this upside down, you can still do it as long as you line the holes up to the bolts and kind of work kind of fast. So we're going to do this and knock all this out real quick. Alright, now that all that's done, oil pan time. It's clean, it's ready. I'm just going to throw a coat of gasket maker all the way around it real quick, and then we're going to start snugging it up slowly. We're going to put the two 1/2 inch bolts on each side, and then we're slowly work our way through. So let's get to it. Alright, so oil pan is on with a little bit of struggle. The 1/2 inch bolts didn't want to line up good, so I had to keep playing with them until they did. So we did that. Now we're going to put the flex plate back on, and then we're going to start throwing it back in the car. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. Alright, so everything's snugged up. We are going to get this thing in here. So let's do it. Alright, so learning these things, I'm going to go ahead and hook up the starter wire right now so that I don't have to do it in a minute. It makes sense to do that, as well as move all my wires where they need to go, so that as soon as I drop this thing in, I have all that done, so I don't have to sit there and try and break my arm doing it again. So let's get these starter wires in. Okay, well, sorry you missed it, and joke's on me. I almost had it in, almost, and remembered pressure or the flex plate was not on. So I had to pull the motor back just a little bit forward and crank on the bolts, get them secured on there, get it all back together, and then push this whole thing back. I'm just going to move this a little bit. It'll pop into place. I already got the passenger side done right there. Whenever you do wrapped headers, make sure you put in number 3 before installing the headers. It makes it a whole lot simpler and easier, and you make sure it's connected to the spark plug. So yeah, the next time you see this, I'm just going to throw everything back in, get it all done, and we'll be cranking it again and testing to see if there's any fluid leaking again. And fingers crossed it's not. So this is a wrap for right now. In a few days you're going to see everything back in here, and yeah, this will be all cleaned up, and we'll be ready to pull this thing out, take it for a rip, hopefully, if there's no leaks or issues or anything else. So I want to say thank you for joining into another episode of the shop. Make sure you check out Teespring, get you some merch, check out Patreon. Anything helps. Keep doing these builds, keep doing this little how-tos and messing up and everything else. And check out Instagram. Instagram normally has most of what's going on, but Patreon does have more behind the scenes and what's going on that no one really knows about until the videos come out and everything else. So, but thank you again for joining in, and until next time.